journey to the Final Four and sharing how blessed he feels for his team to be there.
Yeah, we're just extremely blessed, man. We enjoy our time together. We enjoy working out. We enjoy everything that the game has to offer. So I'm not surprised that we're in this predicament, but we have enough what it takes to finish.
The Gators will take on SEC rival the Auburn Tigers this Saturday in San Antonio with tip-off at 6:09. You can hear coverage on 1010 AM and 92.5 FM. The Florida Gators baseball team opens a homestand tonight against the North Florida Ospreys with first pitch set for 6:30. Starting on the mound tonight for Florida will be Jackson Barberi matching up against Ospreys right-handed pitcher Ryan Fury. You can hear the game live on 1010 AM. It's 80 degrees at 12 o'clock. Time in temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our three sports-loving ladies. Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
This is Helmets and Heels
on 1010XL.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
Taylor Dahl, welcome back from
Thank
vacation.
you.
And we did this yesterday, but want to do it while you're here. Congratulations on the 1010XL draft guide.
Thanks. It looks great. I was scrolling through yesterday and I was like, man, it's just one of the things I love this time of year in general when we're starting to learn a lot of these prospects. And I think that when you, especially if you're not one of those people that's watching college football every weekend, this is super helpful. But even if you are going through and seeing some of these guys and their numbers and stats and bios and just finding different like fits and things like that is nice. But obviously they all do a great job too of breaking down specifically what the Jags need, which is what people around here want to see and do. But yeah, year 2 of the draft guide, and I feel like it's now the start of something that may be even bigger and better as we go on.
And 1010XL.com is where you get it.
We also have a QR code that you can see right now if you're watching on the live stream on YouTube, Facebook, or X. So if you are watching on your TV, your second screen, use your phone. Make sure you use the QR code to download this year's draft guide.
I have other important news to discuss. We totally forgot yesterday to say happy wedding. Congratulations to Trevor Sikkema and Alyssa Lang, who got married over the
Oh my
weekend.
gosh, I missed it.
Well, on Friday, I brought it up, and Lauren looked at me like, are we allowed to say that? And I'm like, I don't know. Every ESPN personality seems to be there, and PFF and the Ringers. I'm like, I don't feel bad in saying it. So
Yeah, Alyssa was
happy
once,
for our friends of the program.
Yeah, she was once on our show a few times, Helmets and Heels, and so certainly it's been a few years in the making.
Yeah, it's been the Sikkema wedding gate of us trying to figure out if they were actually already married or not. But yeah, congrats. I actually did not even see or know that. So
Yeah, it looked lovely. And then one final order of business. Happy 1-year anniversary to us. This is the exact 1-year anniversary. Last year we started this show as a full-time program. Thank you, RJ. We started it on April Fool's Day. Of course, had to immediately tell everyone, no, it's not a joke. I'm not
Still
sure.
not a joke.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people believed us or not. But yeah, so 1 year of doing this. We appreciate everyone out there who has supported us, who believes in us, who continues to interact with the show. We just are so thankful for the platform that we have in order to share our opinions. And we're going to keep on going strong a whole another year at least, right? All right, let's get it to pressure. Pressure on Trevor Lawrence versus pressure on Liam Coen. There's a lot of pressure on both of them. That's the obvious answer. But Taylor, I'll start with you. Which one, if you had to answer the question, who's under more pressure, which one would you say?
Yeah, and I will say, as I was just talking to Mike Dempsey, too, he had a similar reaction to what I did. When you posed this question, I immediately wanted to say Trevor right away, and my mind is drawn to that. I also think because now we're heading into year 5 of Trevor, you feel like and some people more than others, some people think that there's still a lot to prove. Some people still want to see a few things. Some people are like, it's been everything else and not Trevor. So there's all sorts of opinions on that. But as I sit down and I start actually kind of going through a list of why and what that pressure word actually means, and I think that's part of it too. And so I think I could go both ways, but even after kind of sorting through, it's hard for me to not pick Trevor Lawrence in this situation personally, and mainly because of the year 5 and because of the money he was given and because of what we've started to see even last year out of all of these young quarterbacks that just got drafted and how quickly you were seeing from week 1 to 18 how good they were getting in such a fast. And yes, we know we saw the CJ Stroud thing happen, so some of these might take a step back next year. There's all of those things, but to me, when you talk about your organization and the path and what is success, it's revolving around your quarterback. And we've seen that a lot in recent years. And that's why Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have been able to do what they do. That's why the last 7 years, the Bills have been constantly in it. That's why even when Joe Burrow has no protection or defense, Joe Burrow's so good, he can still get 8-9 wins for a team, even if he's suffering, if he's going through injuries and the rest of the team sucks. So I just think the quarterback is such an important thing. And I'm not saying the coach isn't, because we've seen that it definitely is also. But I think because of the timing and because we're deeper into the Trevor Lawrence saga, it adds more. Yeah, it adds more. And I think that when we're talking about that, like I said, it's all coming back to how much. And I think that is the biggest question of that pressure. What exactly does that mean? And to me, it's just more so I think people want to see more consistency out of Trevor Lawrence. And they want to by the end of this year. And that's why I've been so adamant about continuing to fix the offensive line and continuing to add weapons, even though some people are like, oh, well, we have this and this, and like, they improved it a little bit. I want to know by the end of this year where Trevor Lawrence is going to be sitting, or at least start getting in the direction of that. And I have way too many question marks surrounding him still after 4 years. And so that to me is why I feel like there's more pressure surrounding him. But I think there's multiple ways you can argue this.
I want to take the Duval out of it. I want to take away the teal-colored glasses, the optimism that many of us in this room have for Liam Coen, James Gladstone, Tony Baselli, and the upcoming administration.
I'm wearing a teal dress. Is that bad?
Yeah, that's why I said it. I want to remove that from the conversation. What do we say so often when we are evaluating prospects, when we are evaluating situations with the other 31 teams? Well, they didn't draft him, so they're not tied to him. This new administration is tied to Trevor Lawrence because part of their sales pitch was, we believe we can get the best out of him. With that said, you can make the argument that the folks up there in Tennessee, and I know they've had their problems, but Brian Callahan took that job last year and said, I believe I can get the most out of Will Levis. And here we are a year later, and they are obviously, with the number 1 overall pick, by all accounts, appearing to be moving away from him, whether they draft Cam Ward or not. And so that's where I say, if we're going to say that about the other 31 clubs, well, they're not tied to him. I think the Jaguars administration is a little bit more tied to Trevor because they gave the vote of confidence to, yes, that is the plan. But things can change quickly in 365 days. And so that is why I look at that statement that we throw around in talk radio so often. Well, they're not tied to him. This group is tied to him, yes, but maybe not as tied to him as they are a long leash to building this thing from the ground up, whether it includes Trevor Lawrence or not.
If Trevor hadn't gotten the contract extension and that $250 million plus in the 5 years that it guaranteed, I say guaranteed, the 5 years that he's signed up to be here, then I would say, yes, if he was still in his first contract, they are definitely not tied to him. But because of that financial investment, and because I think Shad Khan is not going to move on from Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to answer the opposite way, Taylor, and say I think it's Liam Coen. And the reason he got this job is, I think, the same reason that there's pressure on him. Because of what he was able to do with Baker Mayfield, because of what he was able to do with the Bucs offense. We obviously know that they went from a team that couldn't run the ball at all to being one of the best in the league at running the football. They also offensively improved in so many different stat categories. I mean, literally across the board, whether you look at total offense, they were 3rd in the country. Scoring offense, they were 4th in the country. And rushing offense, like I said, they were 32nd the year before they went to 4th. So I feel like his success is now, and especially the working with Baker Mayfield and what he's been able to do, has almost set Liam up for, like Shad saying, you have to get this to work, or I'm going to find another coach and another, like, I'm not giving up on Trevor. I will keep finding a different person that I believe can work with this guy. All that being said, we all know Trevor Lawrence is now going to be held to the Baker Mayfield standard.
Yeah.
But Baker, one quick note, Baker Mayfield, every year that he started in the league, has double-digit interceptions, except one, and that was in 2020. So to me, that gunslinger approach, I think that's Trevor Lawrence, and I definitely think that's Baker Mayfield. So I feel like that does help Trevor in that category. I don't think they're asking him to completely reduce the interceptions and the turnovers overall. I think they're going to be focused more on getting the ball out accurately, down in and down out.
Yeah, and I think when we're going to that, and that's why I kept going back and forth. But part of me is, if this happens again, if Trevor at the end, we still have all of these question marks, how many people, if not already on that boat, are going to say this is his third coach? Who's the problem here? Who's the common denominator? And that's why I think it's still on Trevor, because I don't know if after 1 year, if Liam Coen doesn't magically fix Trevor and all of these things are running smoothly, if they're going to blame him as much as they might start blaming Trevor at that point, because they're going to say, you had, yes, the Urban Meyer thing was an experience, but then you have a Super Bowl winning head coach who comes in and had Carson Wentz and Nick Foles and made them look like Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. And then you have someone who comes in and completely revitalizes and makes Baker Mayfield one of the best quarterbacks in the league last year, in addition to bringing this rookie running back in and making him one of the best running backs in the league. And so I think they'll start pointing to me, more so Trevor and the personnel on the Jags rather than Liam Coen right away. Not saying that if in 3 years it's still not what we were starting to see in Tampa, that would be the same storyline. But to me, if we're talking about directly this year, a lot of blame is going to come back on Trevor Lawrence if it still looks like the mediocre that we've had mediocre to bad that we've had the last few years, and sprouts little splashes of good.
I would encourage you, and I saw someone on the timeline on X did post it yesterday. I would encourage you to go back and look at, if only in a one-play sample size, the throw to Brian Thomas Jr. in the opener against the Miami Dolphins in the back corner of the end zone. Look, he is still one of 5 or 6 human beings that can make that throw. It's the consistency that's been missing. And so I don't want to say that it's...
glad you can do that one time in 17 games. That's cool.
Right, exactly. And so that's where I don't want to say it's all mediocre, but at the same time, it's the consistency. We would invite you guys to join in on the conversation. This question of the day has been posted on X at 1010XL, as well as in the YouTube chat line, so make sure you vote. Who is under more pressure in Duval in 2025, Trevor Lawrence or Liam Coen? Of course, the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures also open, 904-641-1010. 626 says Trevor Lawrence is not Will Levis. I was not saying that. I was just saying from the perspective of a new coach coming in and saying, yes, I'm going to fix him. Even though he still has 3 years on his contract, we've got time. We're going to figure this out. And now the Titans, by all accounts, appear to be moving away from Will Levis.
It would be fascinating if, again, the extension hadn't already occurred with Trevor Lawrence. Where would this regime be with him now, right? Like, what would they be thinking as far as playing on the 5th-year option? Would it have given them a little bit more options? Like, Trayvon Walker, right now, that's where we are, right? Yeah. Like, this regime now gets to decide. This administration gets to look at it and say, all right, we can do the 5th-year option, or we can go ahead and give him the extension now, and maybe it'll be a little bit cheaper if we were, versus waiting. But they don't have that option with Trevor, which is why, to me, that this question is so fascinating because what happens if, and I hate being the pessimistic one, right? But what happens, and it's more hypothetical, but what happens if Trevor isn't a generational quarterback that eventually can get there? I still believe that he can, because when I go back and watch his plays, when he's off, he's not off by that much. Like, he tends to start games by throwing a little high, right? And then as the game kind of goes along, I feel like he settles into his skin. Yeah. And then we see him in, I feel like the second half, like all of a sudden you're like, okay, if I could just get that to start in the first half of the games, or last year, if he could have that in the first half of the season, like that's the guy, like we got to pinpoint this. And so again, if you have faith in Liam Coen, then you think, this is it.
If you have faith in Liam Coen, that probably stems from what he did in Tampa. And ironically enough, Matt on the YouTube chat line says that Trevor should be made Vinny Testaverde of the Bucs 2.0. Draft Ashton Genty. Taylor was on the train first. Make Trevor a game manager. Example, Bortles in 2017 when the Jaguars, of course, drafted Leonard Fournette. Of course, that was only 1 year of sustained success, Matt. But it's not a bad example because, as someone else on the text line chimed in, the point of the texter was making the point of Jared Goff and Sean McVay and the ultimate parting of ways there, and the idea of, well, Sean McVay wanted to go out and get the quarterback he wanted that he could win right away with. But to the Jared Goff point, you go to Detroit, they don't look at the word game manager in a negative light. No. They view it as, we have a balanced offensive attack, 250, in case you've heard of that one before. And they're actually able to accomplish it, unlike a previous coach here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Bucky Irving, though, drafted in the 4th round, the 125th pick overall. So do you really have to go Ashton Genty if you're trying to get the run game going? We'll continue the conversation on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Believe in the unbelievable.
Unbelievable!
1010XL.
I can't believe it! I can't believe it!
Where hearing is believing.
Unbelievable!
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Heareth my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Get it? With the times.
With the times? You're playing the lute.
Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. This month, get Zero Resified from Jacksonville's #1 carpet cleaner. You'll get 25% off all cleaning services. That's right, 25% off. Check out 8,000 raving customer reviews if you don't believe me online. Call them, 904-287-5727, or visit their website, ZeroResJacksonville.com. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Hey Jacksonville, Lauren here for Big Chief Tire. Tax season is the perfect time to invest in your vehicle. Use your refund to tackle overdue tire replacements, brake repairs, or routine maintenance. Big Chief Tire's skilled technicians ensure every dollar counts, keeping your car running strong. With 5 convenient locations around town, fair prices, and trusted expertise, they've got you covered. Visit WeKeepJacksRollin.com or call 904-932-0950 to schedule an appointment today. Big Chief Tire keeps Jacks rolling.
Open early and open late. Dailies is always there, making things easy for you to cruise in and cruise out. So hit Dailies Cold Case the next time you're craving a cold one. Bud Light by the case, plus plenty of singles to choose from. Corona to the King of Beers to Stella or a Natty. They're all cold at Dailies.
If someone you love needs a pick-me-up, then it's time to get serious about it and send them a Coen floral arrangement. Max Fink here with 1010XL. You'll be assured of quality delivery, that's for sure. Log on and order online at CoenFlowers.com.
I open the door and take you inside the locker room to get you closer to the field, the players and coaches you care about.
Get a look at Hayes' blog on 1010XL.com.
My blog is brought to you by Roland Reach Plumbing,
where quality and experience count.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Charles.
6. Oh, so close. Betty for the steal.
What about the bank that helps you reach your financial goals? Synovus.
Let's see, judges. Yes, looks like we have a winner.
That's a number?
Sorry, Charlie. Remember, a solid financial future doesn't happen by chance. Talk with Synovus about your potential today.
Brought to you by Synovus Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. The number was 4.
Bueller.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey man, what's that noise?
Do you hear it too? You can hear it, right?
Yeah, it's your air conditioner. It's like a grinding or a rattling.
And it's getting on your nerves, right? Like it's eating at your brain and you can't think straight? But it just keeps grinding and squeaking and taunting and nagging. You're not good enough. You're a failure. Why can't you be more like your sister, the lawyer?
Yeah, I don't hear that last part so much.
Yeah, but it's not cool, right, Jason?
It could definitely be cooler. At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can totally repair whatever that noise is and get your AC working smoothly and silently. We fix these things all the time.
So I won't be a failure?
Life should be enjoyed. If some irritating, broken air conditioner is making you crazy, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
The college basketball playoffs are here, and there's no better place to catch the action than at Hurricane Grill and Wings. With slam dunk specials like $3.75 Miller Lite drafts, plus fresh, never frozen wings in over 30 flavors, and big screens everywhere. This is your home for all the games. Cold beer, handcrafted cocktails, bold flavors, big plays. Don't just watch the games, experience them at Hurricane Grill and Wings. Find your spot at hurricanewings.com.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey, and I only like to recommend the best, which is why I'm proud to say that I chose Pella Windows and Doors for my own home. And now's a great time to upgrade your home with 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years of interest-free payments on the best windows and doors in the business. Don't wait. Schedule a free consultation at PellaJacks.com or visit their showroom on Phillips Highway just north of Bay Meadows. For quality you can trust and savings you can't miss, that's Pella Windows and Doors.
This is the Mangler. Years of playing football coupled with lifestyle left my feet mangled with neuropathy. I was experiencing burning, tingling, and numbness. I spoke with 2 foot specialists and they told me there was no cure. They were wrong. I found Dr. Nate Riddle in Ponte Vedra. After utilizing his neuropathy treatment for only 2 weeks, I noticed a difference in my feet. I was regaining my feeling and balance. If you want relief from nerve pain, call Dr. Nate for a free consultation at Riddle Wellness, 904-395-5598.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and there's so many cool products that are on the line at Cycles of Jacksonville. Showroom is Atlantic and Regency, and we're talking, Greg, you've got from any level of price point, the experienced rider to the inexperienced on-road, off-road.
We've got it. We've got ATVs, we've got motorcycles, we've got scooters, we even have the new Honda boats. We've got something for everyone.
Don't forget about the boat line from Honda. It's all right there, waiting for you. Atlantic and Regency or Cycles of Jacksonville's Facebook page.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
We just trying to catch a good time, even if it takes all night. Pass that bottle around the campfire.
We're going to continue the Jaguars conversation, but did want to let everyone know about the update when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, boy.
According to the owner, all signs are positive that the team will reach a deal with Rodgers to become the next quarterback there. The Steelers will wait a little while longer on Rodgers, not forever. And no, Art Rooney did not imagine that it would take or expect that it would take this long.
This is fun. I get to go back to hating the Steelers just even more naturally.
Well, I was going to say, Taylor has coined the phrase the Trevor Lawrence saga.
Yeah.
Nothing compares to the Aaron Rodgers saga.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't even know what season we're on of that wonderful television show because I think
it's like the SVU, how there's like 28 or something. That's where we're at now, how many seasons we've had of this one.
I mean, he's 41. He's been in the league since probably, 21, 22, so about 20 seasons of it. Now, obviously, it started off really well.
Yeah. Well, he didn't play for 3 years, so I guess his first year starting, he was 26.
Right. But, I mean, by the time he's eventually started, it would have been very early that he would have won the Super Bowl within the first 5 years. That's what we're looking at you for, Trevor Lawrence, getting it back to the Jaguars. By the way, for everyone who loves those behind the scenes videos, the hunt returns on Thursday. So make sure you check that out at jaguars.com and get all of the behind the scenes stuff with Tony Baselli, Liam Coen, and James Gladstone.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to PCAV and that crew because they're taking the show on the road. They went up to Rhode Island where Liam Coen spoke at a coaches convention that he used to attend when he was in, college, high school, as a young guy coming up, following in his dad's footsteps. And so the fact that they're taking the show outside the Miller Electric Center and truly giving you a behind the scenes look. And honestly, I was kind of surprised in that sneak preview. And granted, none of it was giving away, specific personnel or plans that Liam Coen has schematically for the Jaguars. But, they still got pretty in-depth about, what pony personnel is and this, of course, idea of players over plays. And it was, listening to it, I was like, damn, okay, we got some specifics here, which I'm rather fascinated by. The idea of his dad's offense when he was coaching in high school and then at Salve Regina at the collegiate level was based around the wing T. I know there's some Corky Rogers Bulls fans out there that are smiling when they hear that on the Jaguars social channels. And I think that it's interesting because for so long, and certainly with Cam Ward rising up draft boards, it's worth noting, he ran the wing T in high school. And that's largely why he was not regarded as a top prospect because he wasn't asked to do all that much. Yeah. And so to our conversation about what is Trevor Lawrence expected to do, I think that the idea of the wing T being this outdated offense, I think when you look at it through the innovative lens of the reason we're running a version of the wing T is because there's an emphasis placed on the run game and there's an emphasis placed on where can I best position my skill players to have success.
And the scheme, like Liam said, the wing T, everything looks the same, right? And then so the other team is not sure how they need to adjust because every time the offense trots out, it looks like they're going to run the football, but that's not at all what happens. And so obviously the offense has sprouted from that. And in Liam talking at the owners' meetings yesterday, he certainly talked about how there's guys that they brought in or that are already here that have been in this system, and they think that that's going to certainly help them. Of course, Trevor has never been in this system before. He has to learn it. His third system in 4 years, and that's why when people, third system in 5 years when he starts playing this year, but when people say, there's all the pressure on Trevor, and I know it sounds like excuses every time we go down this road, but if you had one of the worst offensive lines and your team couldn't run the football and you really only had one guy getting separation in Brian Thomas Jr., how would you do at the quarterback position? And I think the injury stuff has been in his head a little bit because of of just how banged up he's been over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think a few things. Number one, I hope they call one of the episodes like Hitting the Road, but RHODE, because we're talking about Rhode Island. But also, I think that's why the conversation with Trevor Lawrence is so hard. And I immediately see people on the text line saying, like, the Trevor Lawrence conversation's dumb because he hasn't had this and he hasn't had this and he needs people to catch the balls. And I totally get that. But I also think you can look around the league at other. And Joe Burrow's the one I keep going back to because he had way worse situations than Trevor Lawrence. He did have T and Jamar.
He has the weapons for sure.
He has those two guys, but they ran the ball worse. They blocked worse. Their defense was worse. And so, and I think that when you start looking at that, and I also think Zach Taylor was also on the hot seat. Like, Zach Taylor was somebody who before this season was coming in and being like, does Zach Taylor make it through the season? Because he hasn't proven himself as a very good coach either. And so I do think that if you look at how people can, and that's where this conversation has to go also, is where do you think success is with Trevor at the end? And in 2-3 years, what to you does mean that it's a successful Trevor Lawrence and that you have the quarterback you want? Because there's obviously levels of those. We have the Patrick Mahomes at the top, and just behind that is when you're having the Josh Allen and Joe Burrow conversation. And then there's the little level behind that where you have the Jalen Hurts and the some of the Herbert. I'm trying to think of some of the guys on that next tier. But where do you want him, and what to you would you be happy with? Because I do think that's part of the conversation too. If you are okay saying that, and we talk about that game manager word, which Denny Thompson loves game managers. He hates that people crap on these, because look at what a Brock Purdy can do in certain situations when you do kind of build teams around him. And then what happens when those guys are getting hurt and those guys are getting traded and you don't have all of those pieces surround, they do try to fall, they kind of start to fall apart. So I think where you have to start in this conversation is, where would you be happy with Trevor Lawrence in 5 years?
Right. By the way, real quick, the Bengals had the 25th worst defense in the league. The Jaguars had the 31st.
Okay.
So they were close.
But yeah.
But because I was like, I feel like the Jaguars may not have been the worst because the Panthers were the worst, but the Jags were right behind it. But certainly still, the 25th best.
I just remember when I did the EPA one, they had the 30th. The Bengals had the 30th because they had or maybe it was the 30th. It was 30 and 31 for what their rushing offense and their defense, and the EPA.
This goes off of yards versus
So the EPA, they were like second to worst.
Not that touchdown to interception ratio determines success, but it certainly is a good place to start.
Trevor, it's the easy stats that everyone points to.
Trevor's career high right now, 25 touchdowns, to be paired with, technically, I guess his career low was 7 picks last year, but he only played in 10 games. And so in that 2022 season in which he had 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, I think that's a good number to look at and begin. Like, because that was probably his most consistent season, even if he really didn't turn it on until after the midway point, after that disappointing loss.
Yeah.
Ding,
right,
ding, ding.
Right, exactly. So 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Would love to see him get over the 30 touchdown plateau. Let's keep the bar reasonable here. Getting over the 30 touchdown plateau, that for me is step number one. Let's look at some of those other names that you referenced, Taylor, because I think that that's also a good starting point, especially in dispelling this notion of game manager, and that's negative. And I got somebody on the text line right now arguing with me about, you don't pay a game manager $55 million. Well, why does Tua make 53 then? Like, explain that one to me. Why is Brock Purdy in line to make more than 50 some odd $million as well? So
Jalen Hurts, by the way, has never gotten over the 30 touchdown mark passing.
Yeah,
but
correct.
you have to add in those
rushing.
touchdowns.
You can't ignore those ones.
Correct, exactly. So maybe he's not the one to look at. Let's look at Justin Herbert, who obviously lit the world on fire in his rookie season. His first 2 seasons, 31 and 38 touchdowns to go along with 10 picks, 15 interceptions. If you're a gunslinger, you're going to gamble.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the interception number being high so long as it's a 2-to-1 ratio between touchdowns to interceptions. This past season, the first, 6 games of the year, Jim Harbaugh was like, we are running the ball.
Yeah.
You're just going to be a game manager. I don't care that you have this cannon of an arm. 23 touchdowns to 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
The interception number drops. Obviously, the number of pass attempts, largely people think that it dropped. It did not. Justin Herbert with 504 dropbacks last year compared to 456 the season prior when he only played in 13 games.
Yeah.
That's his career low. And then in those previous seasons, 595 his first season, 672, 699. And so, honestly, by season's end, yes, I guess you can make the argument it was a 200 attempt difference between 2022. But at the same time, like, he did turn it on late considering those first few games. It was like, 12 of 18, like 13 of 17.
Yeah.
And I think that not that I want to subscribe to that school of thought that Liam Coen has to literally tear this thing. Oh no, I'm not going to say no. Oh no. We're not going to quote Press Taylor on this program anymore. But point being, if you do want to go back to basics, let's call it that. Go back to basics. The fundamentals like Jim Harbaugh. Okay, well, in that situation, then if you don't get over the 30 touchdown plateau, I'm not going to crucify you for it. But at the same time, look at that touchdown to interception ratio.
23-3 it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's efficiency.
Yeah.
Can the offense be efficient? That's the biggest thing. Your quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence can fit in this category. Your quarterback can play a B game, right?
Yeah.
Like, does not have to be perfect, does not have to be what we saw Gardner Minshew once do against the Chiefs, even though the Jags lost that game, and be like 26 of 28.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that. Trevor can have a 65% completion percentage with 2 touchdowns, passing touchdowns in a game. But if the offense is efficient, then all of a sudden Liam Coen looks like a genius because we have not had an efficient offense since 2022.
And I think that's what Jim Harbaugh did. I think that when we talk about Trevor, and you can honestly, the conversation between Trevor and Justin Herbert, I think from the beginning has always been kind of that back and forth of no, Trevor's better, no, Justin Herbert's better. Here's these numbers, here's these numbers. To me, it's more so Jim Harbaugh realized that you are not going to have an efficient offense if you can't run the ball. So he made sure that that was built back into their offense. And he made sure that to get a fullback because he wanted to toughen up this offense again. And he wanted to add all of the chip help he can and make sure that Justin Herbert wasn't getting hurt because Justin Herbert also had back-to-back seasons with injuries, like we've seen with Trevor Lawrence. And so I think that with that, Jim Harbaugh was looking at this and saying, number one, we have to get this run game working again or this is never going to work. Number two, we have to get Justin Herbert's mind right because Justin Herbert was starting to have those moments too that we've seen Trevor this last year where you could tell those injuries started factoring into certain decisions they were making or lack of decisions, bad decision making because they don't want to get hit again, because they don't want to get injured. And that I really do think that started factoring into both of these guys' minds. And so I do think that is what we are going to see a ton of. So if we don't see 30 touchdowns, passing touchdowns by Trevor Lawrence this year, I don't think that we don't have to be upset about that. What you do want, and this is what I've for 2 years said that ratio because when people were trying to compare him to Josh Allen, and I was like, Josh Allen has like triple the amount of touchdowns as Trevor Lawrence. If you want to do the first 3 or the last 3 years, however you want to look at it, you need that ratio to start separating at some point. So if he does have 23-24 because they start leaning on running the ball more, and a lot of what Jim Harbaugh too were their short passes, that's why you're seeing still a good amount of attempts, but maybe not as many yards, maybe not as many deep passes, not as many deep touchdowns because they shortened the game a little bit and they made it not so much on Justin Herbert, which is what they have to do here to get Trevor back comfortable into what we've seen at the end of 2022 where he can take over those games when he needs to.
And for purposes of the argument, Mr. Game Manager himself, Brock Purdy, his first full season in which they went to the Super Bowl in San Francisco, 31 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That matches the ratio. And a season ago, when everything else around him collapsed, 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, which you could argue is somewhat comparable to Trevor Lawrence's 21-14 circa 2023, in which obviously the Jaguars collapsed down the stretch.
Currently with over 100 votes, Trevor Lawrence 91.7% as far as under the most pressure, Liam Coen 8.3%. I knew that as far as Twitter would go, the answer would be Trevor Lawrence because we know the conversation surrounding him online has been he is not the quarterback that this franchise thought he would be, but to this point. But I do think that Trevor has the deal in place for him to be here a long time. And so that's why I picked Liam Coen. All right, we'll keep the NFL conversation going. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010X on 92.5 FM.
Long ago, sports radio was just a dream. But one brave station dared to make the leap into sports outer space. 1010XL. One small step for man. Out of this world.
At Duck Duck Air Conditioning, we've got a crazy offer just for you. Mia here, and we're giving away free AC inspection to our wonderful customers who call and schedule now. No strings attached, zero cost for you. One of our expert techs will come look at your AC unit and make recommendations to ensure it's running at peak performance. But you must act today. A deal this good won't last forever. Call 904-862-6769. That's 904-862-6769 or visit them online at duckduckac.com. Any required repairs are not included in the inspection.
Homeowners,
fresh in 2025. Prosser here, and Loan Pronto is here to help take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payments and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans, starting in the low 5s APR. If your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much. Even if you're in process with another lender, call Loan Pronto now. Lock in at a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It's fast, easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call now, 904-999-1508, or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508. Equal housing lender, NMLS 16617881, subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
Poker players, the Run Good Poker Series is coming to Best Bet Jacksonville from April 24th to May 4th with 10 poker events, including the $1,200 main event, hosting a $300,000 guaranteed prize pool, and event number 1, a $400 no-limit hold'em tourney with a $200,000 guarantee. The action is non-stop. One in, win your seat through satellite starting April 4th at Best Bet Jacksonville. For all the Run Good Series structures and details, visit bestbetjacks.com. That's bestbetjacks.com.
Jumbo Shrimp Baseball opens today at the newly renovated ViStar Ballpark. Come early for opening day street carnival and don't miss post-game fireworks. Don't miss Thirsty Thursday and fireworks Friday and Saturday. Baseball all week and weekend. Tickets start at just $5. jackshrimp.com for tickets. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, affordable family fun.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging? Spring is here, a time to renew. I'm Dr. Mark Capel, a board-certified dermatologist, here to help you look and feel your best with minimal to no downtime. Rejuvenate your skin, strengthen your core, and sculpt your body with advanced face and body treatments designed to restore your youthful glow and confidence. Just in time for spring and summer. A healthier, more fit you starts now. Visit dermagnify.com and step into spring looking and feeling your best.
Attention men and women. If you would like to get your hair back, then you need to listen to some of our clients. John in Orange Park.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Call IHRS now at 904-777-IHRS. Find out how to grow your hair back with a free hair and scalp examination. Mike from Bay Meadows.
I finally found the most experienced company who could restore my hair. Now I have hair where I had none before.
Results guaranteed. Diane from Ponte Vedra.
Now I have what lotions couldn't give me. Thick, beautiful hair.
Find out why you're losing your hair and how to grow your hair back. Call 904-777-IHRS for a limited time free hair and scalp examination.
Now my hair will grow for the rest of my life. Thanks, IHRS.
Thank you, IHRS.
Thanks, IHRS, for giving me my hair back.
Hurry and receive a free hair and scalp examination and get 2 weeks of laser treatments for free. Call IHRS at 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Hairforme.com.
Out with the old, in with the organized. Mia here for my friends at Closets by Design. Freshen up your home this spring with a custom organization solution. For a limited time, take advantage of our spring special and enjoy exclusive savings on closets, garages, home offices, and more. That's 40% off with an additional 50% off with 12-month special financing through April. Spring on this deal before it's gone. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation with Closets by Design.
This Date in Sports History is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On April 1st, 1978, ice hockey great New York Islanders right wing Mike Bossy becomes the first NHL rookie to score 50 goals in a season after scoring in the closing moments in a win over Washington.
Denny Thompson here. You got to check out Tyson's Showroom Home Theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. I can stay there to watch all my games. It's that comfortable. Call Tyson today and bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound and Security, your security, home theater, and home automation experts. New showroom at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming Island.
Tired of wrestling with your shower curtain like it's a slip and slide gone wrong? Ditch the drama and say hello to a smooth, stylish glass shower enclosure from Baker Glass. Wago Glass is clean, elegant, and makes your bathroom look huge and brighter. Give your shower a makeover and feel like you're in a spa. without the price tag. I'm Mac at Baker Glass. Call me and get ready to love your new shower. Let's make your shower great again. Remember, Baker Glass, no one treats you better.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Theo O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, back from vacation. RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you. There's one name when it comes to this Jaguars offense that I don't think we've talked about nearly enough. We talked about him when he was hired, but since then we tend to focus way more on Liam Coen, James Gladstone, Baselli, Grant Udinsky. The reason I think he matters so much is because Liam Coen, yes, has been around the Rams, has been around certainly the Bucks, Kentucky, but a lot of those teams already had success before he got there. Grant Udinsky and Kevin O'Connell, I feel like, are linked to really good success for Sam Darnold when that was not there previously. And then not only are they so confident in themselves, Kevin O'Connell especially, because now Sam Darnold's going to play somewhere else. They're going to bring in J.J. McCarthy and totally believe in him. And so I think when we have this conversation about the scheme and the offensive efficiency, I think Grant Udinsky is going to play a huge part in that because of what he can bring from simplifying the offense for Sam Darnold.
Not to go put my leadership professor hat on, but what I will tell you is that Kevin O'Connell stressed that because he has young kids, because Wes Phillips has young kids, and maybe they can't be as available. The fact that Grant Udinsky is 29 years old, and as he said himself, all he does is football during the season. He doesn't have a wife or kids, and so therefore he's much more available at 11, 12 o'clock at night if you have questions, if you want to walk through plays, encouraging those additional conversations. And that's an important piece that, not to say that every team needs that, but in this age of Google and this age of student athletes and professional athletes constantly wanting to know the why and going down rabbit holes, you need someone like that. And now they have it.
Yeah, and I think the two reasons we don't talk about him enough, and I agree we don't. I think there's a lot more that needs to be said about Grant and everything we've heard about Udinsky and what he's done in his career as a whole, and that offensive mind that he has of just understanding that the quarterback position so well. I do think that is important. But I think because with obviously Kevin O'Connell, everyone looks at Minnesota and says KOC is the reason, a large reason of why we've seen that success in Minnesota and what we saw with Sam Darnold and then Kirk Cousins, even, which his career is kind of all over. But I do think because of that, and then also I think because of here when we're talking about Liam Cohen's going to be calling plays, so a lot of people aren't focusing on Udinsky as much. But I do think it's going to be really important to that relationship between him and Trevor Lawrence. And when we talk about those fundamentals, that fundamental word we were just using, getting Trevor back to being comfortable and getting Trevor back to understanding that you don't have to, and we were just talking about this on break a little bit, you don't have to evade these fake pressures. You don't have to always put everything on your back. Let's get you back into a situation where you're comfortable playing quarterback again, because I think there were moments last year where he looked very uncomfortable. And that's the last thing you want out of your quarterback. You don't want a Blaine Gabbert that is field positioning away from people because he's scared to play. And not saying I think Trevor's anywhere close to that, but I do think that's where this relationship between him and Grant Udinsky comes back in, where he can get back in his mind and being like, you have every single tool and talent you need to be a really good quarterback in this league. We just have to draw that out of you, and let's get rid of all of these things that have started backtracking or regressing you in these last few seasons and get you back to the Trevor Lawrence we were seeing come out of Clemson, who was one of the most confident players that you've ever watched on a football field.
Yeah, the question is Trevor not seeing it, or is there not enough time for him to throw the football? Are the weapons not enough around him, right? Like, that to me is what this staff has to figure out, has to hone in on, has to dive into. Trevor right now is still rehabbing, though, from the shoulder surgery that he had to go through at the end of his season. So it's not like they get to see, him throw the ball perfectly right now anyway. They're not together, but even when they get together in OTAs. So my question in this whole conversation that's taken up the first hour of the program, which every time we talk about Trevor Lawrence, this is what happens. So when you circle back to the draft, after this conversation, does it make you less think about a Mason Graham and make you more think about adding a weapon for Trevor or adding an offensive tackle for Trevor, going one of those routes?
I think it depends on the positioning. I think, again, they've set themselves up where they could at least roll the ball out today. They have set themselves up where they can take best player available because there is room to grow at nearly every position on the roster. So I would tell you that they have set themselves up where if there is an elite tight end there at pick 36, if there is an elite wide receiver who falls, yes, have a moment of pause. Maybe deter from the idea of, well, we need to build this from the inside out and build the trenches first. Because I think that is paramount and that is the priority. But I think they have given themselves enough wiggle room because they understand you're not going to get all of the shiny new toys in one class, just as the Detroit Lions. They did not get Sam Laporta. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta, they did get in the same class. But Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell were 2 classes prior, and that's okay.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know, unless it was something crazy, I don't know if I'd be angry at any pick if I feel like it's one of those guys that you really like. I personally would not be mad if they go offensive line at 5. I shared my opinion on that. I don't think what they did this offseason has fixed their line. I wouldn't be mad about that. I wouldn't be mad if one of these wide receivers they really like, not saying I'm absolutely in love with one that I feel like is worth going at 5, but if that is how they feel they can help Trevor Lawrence the most and the fastest, and they truly believe they're analyzing these players, I trust their and whatever, however you word it, of their evaluation, of
especially if they
some of
traded
these
down,
yes,
and then got one of them.
I trust that with them. I'm giving James Gladstone and company all of everything now because you have to. It's not Trent Baalke anymore. If it was Trent Baalke, I'd be a little more hesitant. But I do think when we're having these conversations about this, I'm not really sure there's a position that I would be totally angry about because I do think there's so many holes to fill. And I think that what they did with free agency was kind of they gutted some things. And that's okay because they didn't like this roster. And then they did a little bit of patchwork and they tried, let's see what we can get going so that at that 5th pick, we truly can take who we like the most and who fits the best and who is ready to start day one and that we think can do that at the highest level. And so to me, I'm not sure that I would be angry at any certain pick.
Tight end at 5 might be a little bit of a reach because we haven't seen tight ends taken in the top 10 be as successful as maybe some other positions.
I know people love Warren, and that's why I think that even that.
Other people think the Michigan tight end is better. Colson Lovren. So it's like, again, that's where the whole trading down thing comes into play.
I know there's some people who are loyal to the PFF mock draft simulator, others who prefer PFN. ESPN does have its own for a second straight year, and they've actually really reworked it. So it just went live yesterday, or maybe even this morning. But I'll give you guys the example here. So just kind of ran through it a little bit now. Let's say you take Mason Graham at 5, right? Which is the consensus answer right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. At pick 36, again, this is just one mock draft scenario. To your point of, well, do you need to go get a weapon for Trevor? Is this all about supporting Trevor? Or because you've given yourself enough wiggle room and because you also believe in the coaching of Liam Coen, because you believe in the coaching of Grant Udinsky, maybe you could wait until the 3rd or 4th round because there could be value there at the tight end position, maybe not so much wide receiver.
You can't mimic him anymore. He's gone.
He's somewhere in Atlantic Beach right now. So I'll give you this example. In this scenario, here's the top players according to ESPN who would be available at 36. I don't think this happens, but Donovan Ezeraku, second in college football last year in sacks, very high character guy out of Boston College, chose to come back for his senior year. If he's available, you've already selected Mason Graham, so maybe Walter Nolan's not as appetizing. Travion Henderson, Jaden Hickens, Elijah Arroyo. Those are names that are skill players that in theory could assist Trevor Lawrence in the offense. But to your earlier point, Lauren, you also look at what Tampa did, drafting Jalen McMillan in the 3rd round, drafting Bucky Irving at the top of the 4th round. And I understand these 2 draft classes between 2024 and 2025 are very different. But the point is that once upon a time in both Los Angeles with Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round, and then again in Tampa last year, Liam Coen got more bang for his buck by waiting. For those skill players because they were so focused on, again, the earth theory of there's not many of these 300-pound behemoths who can rush the quarterback and effectively get there using pass rush moves.
Some other teams that had really good defenses, but not the elite defenses. The Eagles had the best defense in the country, but the Chiefs came in at 9th, and then the Commanders came in at 13th. You don't have to have the number 1 defense overall. Yes, the Eagles did, and they won the Super Bowl, but not year in and year out do you have the best defense overall winning. You usually need to have a pretty good defense. So that's why I think I've been along the defensive tackle front for so long. And now I'm like, well, but what if, I think honestly, something that Gus Logue said to us yesterday, Mia, he was talking about Travis Hunter and whether or not the Jaguars should trade up for Travis Hunter, because that was a question we got from a listener. Because, of course, Travis Hunter is a very shiny toy, right?
Yeah.
And he said if they drafted Travis Hunter and if he played receiver, between Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, the Jaguars would have the best duo of receivers, or certainly some of the best, if you want to put Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, 1-2 with that duo. So it's like, well, what if you gave Trevor two of the best receivers in the league? Then maybe your evaluation process gets to come to fruition faster, and maybe you're winning some games earlier in the season that in years past you're not, because there's not as many drops and there is more separation.
Yeah, and then in this draft too, when we're talking about the depth of the running back room, the running back position group, you can still get and we talked about what Liam Coen did with Bucky Irving in the 4th round, and this running back class is way better, or is said to be way better than last year's running back class. So I do think that if something like that happened, then you'd still be able to add that running back you'd want a little bit later, which I think would be most people's argument is, okay, but then we could look at Joe Burrow and say he has T and Jamar, but he doesn't have a line or a run game, and they could only win 8 games because of it. So I do think this is where, when you have this many holes, I do think you have to take that best person there. And I'm not the biggest, because Trent Baalke has scarred me, of the trade back, because I feel like there were so many unnecessary trade backs with him. In this scenario, sitting at 5, I do think it needs to be a conversation, because when you're talking about that limited number of, especially if right away, Travis Hunter's off the board and that's not even a conversation anymore. But you trade back a little bit, and I still think you'd be able to get some really good talent in the mid to late 1st round, and then you'd probably add. I know Mia's better at with that side of what exactly we'd get out of it, but to me, this is that year where you could probably do it and it would be the most worth it, because I do think that, especially how this quarterback room is starting to shake out, and maybe the Mason Graham still being intriguing to somebody, one of the offensive linemen, a Will Campbell or something like that. Somebody's going to want to get up to 5 to get one of these guys, but how much are you getting out of that? And I think that, because when you look at the position needs for the Jaguars and you look at some of the deeper areas of this draft, it connects pretty well. And that is what makes me...
All outside of special teams, by the way. All outside of special teams as far as the positional needs. Yeah, for me, it's going to be hard for the Jags to take a receiver at 5. Yeah. Even though I think that's a need, but because... if you got Brian Thomas Jr. last year at 17, and that was one of the best wide receiver groups, how can you get a guy who we don't think is as good even higher in the draft?
Than him, yeah. Well, we said yesterday, Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah on their episode from Move the Sticks Friday, Taylor, they said, they're like, look, there's a lot of really good 2s and 3s in the wide receiver room this year, but there are no 1s. Yeah. And again, once upon a time, Puka Nacua was viewed as an afterthought by 31 other clubs, or at the very least, their actions seem to demonstrate that. And here we are in a world in which he's one of the top 5, top 10 wide receivers in the National Football League.
And that's where it's hard, because you don't know if it hits. If you do have, let's say you get Tet and he ends up being one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, in 3 years, you're not complaining that you took him at 5. Sure. But at that point in time, when it happens, people are going to say it's a reach because of just how this wide receiver class is looked at, especially compared to last year. And so that's where it's just these evaluations. This is where you have to trust Gladstone and Coen and Tony Baselli's evaluation of these guys, because I feel like they know there's a lot of holes on this, but to me, it's all the last few years. We'll get one starter out of the first few rounds, and you want to see more than that. You want to see those guys you're getting especially rounds 1, 2, and 3 on the football field almost immediately, and that's just something we haven't seen here outside of Brian Thomas Jr.
And it's not just the evaluation; it's also managing the draft. Like, if let's say the Jaguars really like one of the guys that I like, Ole Miss receiver Trey Harris. Yeah, let's say that they really like him. Where exactly is he gonna go in the draft? Are they able to maneuver to get someone like that? Does he go a little bit higher than they were predicting, and so they miss out on him, right? Like James Gladstone hasn't done that part of it yet, right? Because he's always been under Les Snead, who has managed lots of drafts. Yeah. So it's once you get in that war room and things, the phone calls start going and the board those players start coming off the board. It's why for us specifically, and for any team that gets a new general manager, especially one that's never done it before, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. All right, I want to ask y'all a very important question on the other side. We'll get to that in just a moment. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XN on 82.5 FM.
Our colors are teal and black.
That is. Jags on 3, baby. 1, 2, 3, Jags.
No one covers the Jaguars like 1010XL, home of the Jaguars.
Looking for comfort with who you work with? Remember, Florida Home AC only hires the best. Background checks and drug screenings for all their technicians, so you can be confident when you choose Florida Home AC. Exceptional service is their guarantee at Florida Home AC.
Yo, this is Tony from Tony D's. Are you looking for a great slice of pizza? Well, we have about 12 varieties. Most places won't have slices of pizza after lunch. At Tony D's, you can get a slice all day. It's always fresh at Tony D's Pizza. Bay Meadows and 295.
All right, it's Baloo. Let's get real for a minute. Losing weight isn't exactly easy, especially when your life involves being surrounded by good food at every event imaginable. Believe me, I get it. But thanks to Awaken 180, I'm already down 10 pounds, feeling sharper, more energized, and never hungry. This isn't some juice diet or starving yourself nonsense. I'm eating food that tastes great, even when I'm out on the road. Here's the beauty. Awaken 180 gives you the game plan to handle real-life situations. I've been hitting plenty of events lately, temptation everywhere, and I've managed to stay on track effortlessly. That's huge. 10 pounds down, energy way up, hunger totally controlled. So if you're tired of carrying around extra weight, tired of diets that don't work, it's time to check out Awaken 180. Take it from me, Hacker, Dempsey, Hayes, basically everyone. It's easy. It works and it's real. Do what we did and choose the solution for weight loss. Online at awaken180weightloss.com.
You don't think this would be a good moment to text somebody?
There's never a bad moment to share your opinion on the 1010XL text line. Designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Share your opinion
As soon as possible.
at 641-1010.
David Lane here, and once again, I'm happy to share news of my success with back and knee surgeries at Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. Whatever it is that's bothering you, take it from me. Simply set an appointment today at Southeast Orthopedic Specialist and let them help you get back to normal life. I'm certainly glad I did.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World. You've heard us talk about it. Window World, the #1 window replacement company in the USA, selling over 1 million windows each year for the past 8 years.
That's a lot of satisfied customers, and why J.D. Powers has awarded Window World Best in Customer Satisfaction 3 out of 4 years.
Window World stands behind their slogan, simply the best for less. With Window World, you get top quality windows at a price that leaves more of your money in your bank account, and you get the absolute best guarantee there is in the window replacement industry. When compared to our competition, there is none. See for yourself. Call the competition. Get quotes from them. But before you buy, get Window World's free estimate and compare the quality of the windows and the price.
You'll see.
And when your new Window World windows are installed and they're saving you money on your energy bills, if anything goes wrong with those windows, Window World and I will be there to make it right. That's my guarantee.
Call Window World today. Start saving money on your new windows and your energy bills, and take vacation with your savings. Window World, online at windowworldneflorida.com.
Window World, simply the best for less. Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors and siding.
Mia here, and let me tell you about one of our area's best resorts, the Sawgrass Marriott Golf Resort and Spa. The Sawgrass Marriott is not only a great destination for a vacation, but it is also a great destination for dining on the Florida's first coast. 1912 Ocean Bar and Rooftop is now open on Ponte Vedra Boulevard, featuring Ponte Vedra's only oceanfront rooftop bar and lounge. Serving finely crafted cocktails and delectable eats, it's open daily from 4 to 10 with complimentary valet parking.
At Performance Painting, we've spent decades protecting commercial properties with durable, long-lasting coatings. And we can bring the same expertise when painting the exterior of your home. With industry-leading materials and a proven process, we extend the life of your home, reducing maintenance costs and preserving its value. Now, for a limited time, save $500 when you hire us to paint your home's exterior. Just mention 1010XL. Go to performance-painting.com to schedule a friendly estimate. Performance Painting. Repair, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by TopDressing.com. It's opening day down at the VyStar Ballpark for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp as they host the Worcester Red Sox for a 6-game series. The opening day carnival starts at 4 with first pitch at 7:05 down at the VyStar Ballpark. Gators guard Elijah Martin spoke on the Paul Feinbaum Show on the mentality as the Gators head into the Final Four of the NCAA men's basketball tournament this weekend.
I'd probably say just to relax more,
relax more throughout the week, and then probably lock in, like treat it as a normal game. Then lock in like the night before or 2 days before, But definitely want to enjoy myself more, with the team and all the activities that they'll be at the hotel and stuff. So and all the interviews and the deals that's gonna come and stuff like that. Just want to take in all the moment.
Gators and Auburn Tigers Saturday tip-off at 6:09. Hear the game live on 10 a.m., 92.5 FM. It's 82 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing.
By Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
A few days before he turned 80, he was sitting out back in a rocker.
Taylor Stahl, Mia O'Brien, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Molly McDonald just knocked that update out of the park after asking me, how exactly do I say the name of this town with the Red Sox? I said Worcester. Worcester, and she nailed it.
I'm very excited. Number one, to get out to VyStar Ballpark this season. But also because one of my favorite food samplings from the media day. We didn't get to try it, but I'm very excited for this activation.
What a tease.
The roulette hot dog. I forget what they're actually calling it, but what they're going to do, it's at the Craft Cave where the craft beer is, and they're going to have specialty hot dogs, all your classic specialty hot dogs, your Chicago dog, chili on your hot dog, et cetera, et cetera. However, they are going to have a rotating dog that is based upon whoever the opponent is that week. So I want to know, is it going to be
amazing.
Like, what's a Boston or a Worcester or Massachusetts hot dog?
I don't know. I've only been to Boston one time.
Aficionado on the show. I don't know.
But I would love to try it, whatever it is, most likely.
Yes, the Jumbo Shrimp home opener tonight against the Worcester Red Sox. We'll be there tomorrow night. Like we said, cannot wait. The ballpark renovation over $31 million. So everyone that played a part in those renovations, certainly Ken Babby, the owner, got to see him last week at Florida State Baseball. So excited for them. All right, so my most important question that I have to ask y'all is who wins the national championship in men's basketball? And I'm going to give you a little fun fact that John Rothstein tweeted out yesterday. Todd Golden told John that he is working to catch up with Billy Donovan this week to pick his brain on how to handle Final Four week. Billy Donovan, of course, went to 4 Final Fours, won back-to-back national championships in 06 and 07. Does that sway your feelings at all on who wins the national championship?
I talked to Coach
I don't
Campo
trust
just
Billy
now. Does that
Donovan.
change like my odds of winning the national championship? I put him up there with Billy. No offense to Billy, but
Poor Taylor's not thrilled with.
I got the bat. No,
But
I'm being dramatic.
We did play on Friday your Bulls Lakers highlight.
Mm-hmm.
We apologize to RJ that we had to play it though with
sorry.
Josh.
That
Giddey.
was so fun though.
It was
beyond half court, and then beating also the Lakers twice and within like a week span. One time by 30, and then one on a beyond half court buzzer beater. It was fantastic. Seeing sad LeBron is just
sad.
my
LeBron
favorite.
moves the needle for Taylor, even more than sad Aaron Rodgers. So Mia, I'll start with you. Who wins? We're down to 4 teams.
I've held firm. The championship game is going to be Florida Duke. I've held firm to that. Who wins that game? I don't know. Because you talked about it as soon as we walked into the studio, Lauren, and we didn't get a chance to share it on the air. I don't know who's going to be more tired on Monday night after a bloodbath on Saturday for both squads.
Yeah, it's crazy scheduling in college basketball. Of how you go a week in between the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and then you literally Saturday night will play the most important game of your lives, and then turn around 2 days later and also play then the most important game of your lives. 2 games in 3 days.
They should have done it Thursday. And then that way, at least Friday,
Always
Saturday,
have done it this
Sunday.
way.
I know, but it would at least give you, number one, waiting a week for even the Final Four, or do it opposite and give the week between the Final Four and the final. But it is kind of odd.
Yeah, I'd rather have like this Thursday night be the 2 games, and then Saturday or Sunday night, well, I guess Sunday night to give them a little more time, or then Monday, do Thursday, Monday. I'd be fine with that.
I go back to what we talked about yesterday with Tennessee. They look tired.
Yeah.
And the fact that consistently 1 through 8, every shot was left short of the rim. You noted it, Lauren. You said that that's a sign of tired legs, to which I say they got tired legs against Purdue, and then they had to go against arguably the most physical team we've seen in the last, modern era on a basketball court in the Houston Cougars. And so I don't know, even with Duke and all the rotational pieces that they have, even the idea of they'll be able to evade foul trouble because John Shire could just keep rotating different pieces in. They have so many different ways that they can beat you. Even if they get past Houston, are they so wiped from having to be defended, basically picked up at 94 feet, that maybe they're a little bit more tired on Monday. And again, maybe that's a cop-out, but I just go back to, again, if you haven't heard me say it, I will say it again. March 17th, right? That was the day Rory won on the Monday playoff.
Yes, St. Patrick's
Frank Frangie asked me then, who do you think can win? And I said there's 3 teams who could win the national title. One being Alabama, who just got knocked off by Duke, who was my second team, and Florida was the third. And quite frankly, ironically, given the fact that they've been bounced, Michigan State's mantra of there's strength in numbers, that's the reason that I had those 3 teams, because they have A, multiple ways that they can beat you, and B, even if their stars get into foul trouble, they can avoid that by plugging in equally or close to as efficient pieces.
I think to the tired point, it depends on how each of these games go. If Florida ends up getting, let's say, rolled by Auburn, I'll just take the opposite, and Auburn has an easy time in the second half, then, not that I'm predicting that by any means, but if that's the way that game goes, and we have another night where Florida just is off and, tons of turnovers, things that have gotten them to the brink of losing twice now against UConn, obviously, and then this past weekend as well, it's against Texas Tech, that, and then the other game goes to overtime, or the complete opposite. Let's say Florida battles with Auburn into the last minute, and then Duke rolls Houston, because that's, I think, a little bit more likely. Even though Houston, like we talked about yesterday, one of the best teams defensively, then I do think that factors into that Monday night matchup. You'd like to see both games be about equal emotionally, so that there's not kind of momentum for one versus the other.
Do you think that because to me, I felt like that the UConn-Florida game, and I asked the question to you guys of what other team could battle them the closest when it comes to the depth, and Mia said Duke, and that was kind of the answer. So do you think that how Florida has had some of these more difficult games and had to battle to the final seconds, I think may help them more, because they've now had that experience of having to make these big plays late in a game, and when you see Walter Clayton just take that next level up, we know he can do it. And so that it almost makes me feel like these close games that they've had may help them if it comes down to a Florida Duke game.
And that's the argument that many are making on the flip side of the coin, which is Duke has won each of its previous 4 tournament games up to this point by a record margin. And so they have not been tested. They have wiped the floor with everybody. And so if they actually are pushed to the brink, whether by Houston or whoever they would meet in the national title game, if they get past the Cougars, like that's where you question the mental toughness.
Or are they that good? Are they just blowing out teams?
UConn did that last year. They ran through the tournament and then obviously won their second national championship.
Do you think if before any of these games were played, would you have said Duke or Florida had the easier path?
No. I take that back. Duke, I knew that they would meet Alabama.
Okay.
And that's why I judged it and capped it as a difficult road until the Elite Eight.
Okay.
And then going against Alabama, which was one game off because Alabama, BYU, obviously the most three-pointers ever made in an NCAA tournament game by the Crimson Tide. And so, yes, they cooled off. Maybe they were tired legs as well after routing BYU. But no, I think that Duke had the easier path up until that point. I think that there's a lot of metrics that suggest that Houston has had the most difficult road, obviously beginning in the round of 32, the fact that they had to face Gonzaga. I would put Florida right next to them in that pool, because what did I say for a month ago? I said to so many people, anyone who would listen in 1010XLHQ, I said, look, if you have to play the winner of that 8-9 game and it's UConn or Gonzaga, two blue blood, new bloods of the sports, good luck, because they're not an 8 seed. They're not a 9 seed. And the two teams that had to, as 1 seeds, have advanced to the Final Four. But make no mistake about it, I agree. I think that being battle-tested helps. I would never question the mental fortitude, though, of Cooper Flagg after what I've seen so far this tournament. I mean, that's a guy who's not banking on, well, I'm the number 1 overall pick. Who cares? Like, he just wants to deliver Duke a national title. You can see it in that young man's eyes.
And a month ago, we were worried about him playing, right? Like in the ACC championship, or in the ACC tournament, I should say, is when he rolled the ankle. And everyone was obviously concerned for Duke's chances. And he doesn't look to be affected whatsoever.
No.
We've talked about Alex Condon and his ankle injury perhaps still lingering with him. But certainly Cooper Flagg, my favorite part of his game are the blocks. Like, I love
defensively.
I love blocks
much better.
Right, and Florida has a handful of guys that can do that too. But his, like, when he blocks it, it goes, I feel like 20 yards, not just like 3 feet.
Since Taylor like playing volleyball,
right? Yeah.
Since Taylor missed the stat yesterday, the 10 best KenPom teams combining both offensive and defensive efficiency since 1996, of the top 10. all since 96. Every season since then. 4 of the top 10 are the Final Four this year. Duke is second. Again, this is offensive and defensive metrics together. Duke is second. Houston is 6th. Florida is 8th. And Auburn is 10th.
That's wild. I should have definitely looked at more Ken Palm when I was building my bracket.
Hey, you're doing a lot better than me, so
Not
I'm
really.
just saying.
Tennessee messed me up.
Yeah, the fascinating thing is that Ken Palm's rankings, people believe that the NCAA tournament committee should actually look more at what he believes are the best teams because
and seeding wise,
right?
Yeah,
and then seed appropriately.
Yeah,
because his metrics have been
like a Gonzaga being
sure,
that
and his metrics have been so good that, like she said, the first 4 or the first number 1 teams all in the Final Four in a long time. But his rankings, when you look at it, that's what's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Duke being one of the best offensive teams, Houston being one of the best defensive teams, Auburn and Florida obviously knowing each other super well. The teams, not just the teams, but also the head coaches know each other super well. I had Andrew Gibson, the other day be like, I didn't know that Todd Golden and Bruce Pearl were friends. I was like,
he works for him.
Right. Todd Golden's, a lot of people knew that he worked for him, but Todd Golden's best friend is Bruce Pearl's son. Like their families are really close. They spend holidays together. Like it's going to be a battle, obviously.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite things about this Florida team, and I tweeted it the other day, is because we talked about the one game where it was like Elijah Martin's, he was like the full first half offense, it felt like. The other day it was Houck. Almost the whole offense the first half was Houck. And then you have Walter Clayton, who just takes that whole other level when he needs to. But it's so fun to me because you truly never know in the first half which Gator is going to lead in scoring. And I have so much fun with that.
Yeah.
I know it's stressful for you guys.
Yeah. My brother, I texted him like, I hope you're enjoying this basketball run. He wrote back, if you call having mild heart attacks being enjoyment, then sure. And it's like, because anytime you're a fan, you live and die with every dribble, right? And so that's certainly what's going on now. If it ends up being Florida Duke in the national championship, I do feel like the majority of brackets, not just here at 1010, but the majority of brackets across the country had those. Because when I look at the CBS rankings,
it's a lot of Florida Duke.
It's the people that are in the top are Florida fans or Duke fans, and it's for obvious reasons. By the way, have y'all seen this online? Buckets Anderson and the student reporter Talia.
Don't even get me started. I'm not giving it airspace. I'm not giving it oxygen.
Hold on, I want to hear.
So Florida has a guy on the team that used to be a manager, and he worked so hard he finally got to be a walk-on. And in 2 different games this season, Florida's done so well that he's been able to enter the game and get a bucket. And so his name is Bennett Anderson, but his nickname is Buckets. So a student reporter did an interview with him, and it went viral because everyone thinks that he looks like he's in love with her. I've watched the video multiple times. I don't think that. I just think
he's happy.
Taylor, I'll send you the video.
Google it. I know.
I mean, she's a very, very attractive student reporter. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't think that I think he just looks like he's thrilled. He got to actually score points in an NCAA game when he started as a manager. Like, that's an unbelievable story. That's like Rudy.
Yeah. Except Rudy was fake, pretty much.
Well, here's the real Rudy. His name is Buckets. All right, on the other side, I'll give you the Terminix pest of the day and a whole lot more. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010X on 92.5 FM.
Step into the arena. Step on the field. Step up to the plate. 1010XL.
This is Dr. George Bari inviting you to look online at BariOrthopedics.com for the latest in medical advancements when it comes to getting you back to full joint health. After studying under Dr. James Andrews, I know proper diagnosis is the first key to treatment, and educating the patient is the fastest path to recovery. Whether it's chronic back pain, nagging arthritis, or necessary joint replacement, we're here to serve you in the best possible way. We are Bari Orthopedics and online at BariOrthopedics.com.
Find out more at BariOrthopedics.com. That's BAHRI Orthopedics.com.
Lauren Brooks here. At Hodges Mazda, they are proud of their solid reputation in the Jacksonville community. As your hometown Mazda dealer, their high customer service standards and their huge inventory of new and used cars provide their customers a consistently first-rate car buying experience. Their professional non-commissioned sales team put your best interests first without exception. And all new vehicle purchases include the Hodges Mazda Protection Package, which you will love. Visit them online at HodgesMazda.com or stop in today and learn more about the Hodges Mazda difference.
So, you finally have some time to yourself. Even if it is just the car ride home, it's you time. And look at you. Do not disturb set before you even got in the car? Impressive. you've earned this moment to just chill and drive. This break is brought to you by Target Zero and the Florida Department of Transportation.
How much do the performers for Super Bowl halftime shows get paid?
Filing an insurance claim following a storm shouldn't be an ordeal. Southern Oak Insurance's claim team prepares for catastrophic situations well in advance. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
Super Bowl performers are not paid for their shows, but production costs are covered by the NFL, which could go as high as $15 million.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
The best teal-colored coverage includes Mia's quick hits.
Get the latest news from inside the building and around the league. I'm Mia O'Brien, 1010XL's NFL Insider.
Driven by Arlington Toyota. Available on the video and social channels of 1010XL.
There's a lot on the line in a divorce. Your home, savings, maybe even your kids. So when you find yourself facing divorce and the unexpected directions it can take, you need a partner you can count on. I'm Rick Julius, a partner at Cordell & Cordell. Don't let divorce take more than it has to.
Offices in Jacksonville. Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's attorneys. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Rick Julius, licensed in Pennsylvania only. Online at CordellCordell.com.
What could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey, Prosser here. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold hard cash, so you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisals. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. Use it. One client got $150,000 out and paid off all their credit cards, 2 car loans, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day, so act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com or 904-999-1508. Get the money you need for anything at 904-999-1508 or just go to LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
Are you thinking about a pool for your home? Blue Haven Pools is Jacksonville's largest pool builder. They've built pools for over 20,000 satisfied families since 2000. It's never been easier to design the perfect pool for your home, family, and budget. Call Blue Haven Pools today at 904-620-0090 to get a free in-home estimate for your in-ground pool, or visit bluehaven.com. Don't let another summer pass by without a pool. Join thousands of happy Jacksonville pool owners in a Blue Haven pool.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Want to grow your hair back?
IHRS, right here in Jacksonville, is the only hair transplant clinic in the country that offers multi-unit hair grafting, FUE NeoGraft hair transplants, and the 45-minute effective PRP treatments.
Multi-unit hair grafting gave me more hair in one procedure and within my budget.
Thank you, IHRS.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Schedule a free evaluation and find out how to grow your hair back and keep the hair you have. Call 904-777-IHRS. Take the first step to restoring your hair today. Visit hairforme.com.
Now my hair will grow for the rest of my life. Thanks, IHRS.
IHRS has been restoring hair for men and women for over 30 years.
Call now for a free in-person or virtual evaluation. 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Or visit hair4me.com.
Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. This month, get Zero Resified from Jacksonville's #1 carpet cleaner. You'll get 25% off all cleaning services. That's right, 25% off. Check out 8,000 raving customer reviews if you don't believe me online. Call them, 904-287-5727, or visit their website, ZeroResJacksonville.com. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Zero Res. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
My mother told me, she said, Andy, you'll be a man soon. so understand me.
All right, time out for the Terminix Pest of the Day is always brought to you by Terminix. We were just talking about ViStar Ballpark as the Jumbo Shrimp Home Opener is tonight. Terminix takes care of that venue as well as lots of other event venues around town, including Everbank Stadium and the Ritz Theater as well. If you have any sort of pest or termite needs, visit Terminix at terminix.com. Ladies, this was an easy one as the news came out yesterday. 4 games into his 3-year, $42 million deal with the Atlanta Braves, Jurickson Profar suspended for 80 games for violating Major League Baseball's performance-enhancing drug policy. He tested positive for HCG, the same drug that Manny Ramirez was popped for back in 2009.
Sorry, Jeff
Braves.
Prosser. Sorry to bring it up
having a
again.
rough time.
Yeah.
Jeff and Tony and Gibby, all those Braves fans, I get it. But look, this is such a blow to a team that's already struggling. You're coming out of the gates not hitting well, and then all of a sudden you have a guy that you acquired in the offseason and paid a lot of money to popping positive.
Yeah, and this always bothers me because it's so selfish to me for a player to do this because you are affecting, like your team now at this point is struggling. Now they have this whole other mental side of it of one of their players getting popped for PEDs. And then it just adds on. And, I feel like you have this conversation and there's I know we go through it through the NFL and we go through it in a lot of the pro sports of certain players getting suspended for things that maybe we feel they shouldn't or getting fined for things that we feel they shouldn't and then things they should not getting in trouble for. And so there is always that line, but the bottom line is the rules. You know everything. They give you this booklet of everything you can and can't put in your body, and they're very precise about it. If you don't agree with it, it sucks, but it's the rules, and you have to follow them or you get suspended. And now you're hurting not only yourself, but your whole team at this point.
It's like your boss saying you can't have caffeine anymore. And then the first thing you do is
get a
drink coffee.
That would be a struggle for me.
Yeah, that would be a struggle for me as well. No,
I don't have many bosses ever saying that.
I know, but I think that ultimately it also comes down to you have tangible examples. You have Alex Rodriguez being suspended for an entire year. You have players who have missed parts of, if not full seasons. Like, that's my problem with it, is A-Rod's year-long suspension was in 2013 or 2014 because it was summer 2013 when the ruling came down. That was over a decade ago. There are no excuses. You know that Major League Baseball has a no-tolerance policy, and yet people continue to break the rules.
Yeah, it's not something that just popped up last year where all of a sudden you can't take this particular substance or
and
whatever.
If you have questions, just talk to the people. Like, I know there have been some in the past that it's like, well, I got it at, the GNC store.
Yeah. And didn't know it had this particular thing in it.
But again, if you take anything that your team does not prescribe you to take, you ask before you take it.
600 on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Profar should sue his PED connection. He was hitting like 200.
Yeah, it didn't really help that much.
Yeah, which could take us into a whole conversation about the torpedo bats, but we'll say that.
You just heard Coach Campo off air, Lauren. He said Aaron Judge is not using the torpedo bat, and he is cranking homers like there's no tomorrow.
But that's Aaron Judge. There are other players that it may affect. And I will say the side note on that. So my stepdad he invented a bat that got taken by a lot of MLB players. A lot of players used them. This is probably like 7, 8, 9 years ago, maybe. And it ended up not being allowed anymore after a certain time. The MLB is particular of like the length of it and the width of it, but there's certain regulations that they haven't completely hammered out, and that's why this one is okay because it still has the right measurements. In that sense, they've just moved kind of what the barrel is, like a little bit deeper. But I had a 40-minute conversation with him this over the weekend of how this bat would help. He thinks it's a great idea. He said, if you want hits in baseball, then this is the bat that everybody should start using. You don't want to pick it up in the middle of the season probably because it is going to be a different swing. You're going to have to readjust all of that. But he says he's been trying. They tried to create something like this a while ago. The problem is you need to be able to produce like 1 million of them, or most companies won't be able to do it. So whoever did kind of get this going, it's probably something that's been in the works for a long time, and they were finally able to just get enough to where it was worth purchasing X amount and get people to use them. But his description of it and how it helps it's really fascinating when you get into all the logistics of how people swing now and how people hit, and the shift even has affected certain things and certain players. And so all of those things factor in. But it definitely, I do think, benefits certain hitters, but it is also they've had to change how they approach the plate also.
Yeah, obviously other teams are going to look into it immediately and say, can this help my guys? And it's just fascinating that we didn't know about this until opening weekend, really. You'd think that we would have started to hear about this in spring training and word would have gotten out. And so then other teams would have already been practicing with it because it does seem odd to switch your bat, right in the middle. Yeah. Brian and I were watching the Rays Pirates game last night, which shout out to Frank Frangie, poor Pirates fan there. He tweeted out after the game, like, what an exciting night of 4 hits there by the Pirates. But Brian was like, it looks more like a softball bat than a baseball bat. And so, so far it seems, or it is legal. I did read a story today that some people think that they will make it illegal as the season goes on, but certainly we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that's my stepdad said it depends what what Major League Baseball wants to see, because it does follow all the rules of all the actual measurements of a bat that you are in rule books right now. So he doesn't even know if he'll be able to this season ban them. It may have to be something they add it to the rule book.
But why ban them if
adding hits, which is what you've wanted,
yeah.
and that's like Major League Baseball has done everything in their power to start adding more hits into games. And the way he was describing it to me too, which he said Barry Bonds used to put like a weight at the end, like on the knob of his baseball bat, and then obviously that's not legal, so he would tape it and try to hide it, but it does virtually the same thing. It adds weight to your hands, that like where you're holding the bat, which helps when you're trying to make that hard contact. And he went into more details of exactly how to explain it, but he was like, they're figuring out ways now to how to add that weight without doing it illegally. And so, but yeah, Major League Baseball, you're doing everything to want to get hits. You would think they'd want to keep this around.
Do we think any jumbo shrimp are going to use a torpedo bat? Is that something that's in the cards?
I don't know.
It's legal right now.
Have watched and they're like, hey, let me
it's
get
legal
one of those
right now. I wonder if no major league teams are going to pick up on it, maybe a minor league team does.
Yeah.
We shall see. All right, speaking of rules, the NFL and the owners' meetings passed some rules today. We'll start with the overtime rule. To me, this was like the biggest no-duh of a lot of rule changes. The rule used to be that one team would get the ball in overtime, and then in the postseason, both teams had to get the chance. But now in the regular season, both teams have to possess the ball in overtime.
Yeah, it was always a matter of time just because they were testing, which is hilarious that you had to test this new policy out, but they did last year. Obviously, people were
10-minute overtimes.
Right. So. People were much happier with the idea of both teams having a crack at it as opposed to being decided by a coin flip.
Right, because it determines your postseason seeding.
I go back to that image of in the AFC title game in 2018-19 when Patrick Mahomes lost the coin toss to Tom Brady, and he just said, well,
his face, like you could see it.
I mean, it happened to Baker too, Baker Mayfield as well. And you just said, well, okay.
And the Josh Allen one was the big one because it pretty much you could see in their face, like, all right, well, and everyone's like, well, the defense needs to play, but you're already played. The defenses, you're in you're 4 quarters in now, heading into another quarter of football, and your defenses are probably exhausted. And whatever one just also got off the field now has to play in overtime. That's deciding the game because the coin flip said no, this defense has to go out on the field first. And so, I think that one's definitely a no-duh.
The one that I know, Taylor, you'll like, the football now moves from the 30 to the 35 after a touchback because the NFL is trying to get an increase in the return rate from around 33% this past season to they're hopeful between 60 and 70% next season.
Yeah, I love it. I was saying some numbers last week or the week before where it had already gone up a little bit. I think it went from like 22 to 33%, and now they're wanting to get that to jump even more because you obviously don't want to automatically give any team the ball. Pretty soon it's going to be like, you get it on the 50-yard line. But 35, it was already from 25 to 30, and people were like, oh man, you're getting another extra 5 yards. Now you're getting an extra 10 yards compared to what you got to a couple years ago if it's a touchback. So I do think this is going to factor into a lot of game planning, but I do think another thing of this that maybe people didn't, the logistics of what situation you're in that football game. Also, if you're winning, maybe you don't care as much if you hit a touchback and if you're winning by 3 touchdowns, do you really care if someone's starting 5 yards more? If it's a close game, you're probably not going to want to give them any extra yardage. If you have a better special teams defense, you feel like, then maybe you feel like you can trust that a little more, or you trust that nobody's running it past the 20. So I do think team to team will still see differences, but I do think this will hopefully give us a little more excitement in that.
I think they just want to give us some special teams to talk about. They want to make special teams special.
I love
again.
special teams.
I appreciate it.
This one, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to expand the league's replay assist system. The owners did approve proposals to expand it, though, but they didn't tell us how it's going to expand. So what I would prefer is a shot clock on the referees, and you have a minute to review said video. If it takes you longer than a minute, you got to go with what you originally called on the field. Is basically how I would like to look at it.
So Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports had tweeted this in May, and it was starting Next season, the NFL will expand its replay assist to include helping officials on plays where flags were thrown on intentional grounding, roughing the passer, and the runner hit out of bounds. Replay assist will only be used when the flag has already been thrown, and that is what passed.
Yeah, so that's what, from what it sounds like, are those certain things. They're now able to pick up the flag and not call it a penalty when it used to not be like that. Like face mask, for example, which I still think they need to further address the face mask, because with this new rule, they're now allowed to pick up that flag. So if they call a face mask and it wasn't, which previously if they called it, it was a face mask and that the opposing team got the penalty. Now they can pick up that flag if they review it and it was a swipe of the hand on the face mask and they didn't actually get it. But they didn't change it to where if they miss the face mask, there's any challenge, which there was several of those last year and big moments of games that were missed. So I still am not completely happy with that, because I want them to be able, I want a coach to be able to throw a flag in that point and be like, my guy's head just got ripped off and you completely missed this. Let's talk about that one.
Well, as Jonathan puts it, replay assists will not be used to throw flags from New York or the sky. I do love like when it's like, oh, now we're going to throw the flag, or now we're going to make this call after we've already conferred with New York.
The ban of the tush push, changing the playoff seating, and modifying the onside kick are all tabled until May. And like we said yesterday, May is also when we'll figure out, as far as the Jaguars 2027 season, where they will be playing, whether it be Gainesville or Orlando. All right, we've got one segment to go. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on Tentinix on 92.5 FM.
Launch the downloads.
Join the 1010XL Podcast Network.
And initiate sequence.
Now you can find all your favorite 1010XL podcasts in your platform of choice.
Jags fans, here's your chance to score a trip to Green Bay for round one of draft night. Through the Everbank Draft Night Experience Sweepstakes, one lucky winner and a guest will be there live and in person to see the Jaguars make their first pick. To enter, visit everbank.com/draft by April 4th. That's everbank.com/draft. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open a legal residence in the 50 United States and D.C. 18 and older. Entry period from 3/3/25 to 4/4/25. For official rules, prize description, odds of winning, and other details, visit everbank.com/draft. Sponsored administrator, Everbank N.A.
Your yard starting to look a little like a jungle? Well, it might be time for a little TLC. Or how about RTC, Russell Tree Care? At Russell Tree Care, they give your trees the perfect haircut. Whether it's trimming or removing, they'll make sure your yard looks its best, all while keeping safety as a top priority. Call Russell Tree Care today and let them take care of your trees. Russell Tree Care, 844-4Mr. Wood. That's 844-467-9663. Or visit RussellTreeCareLLC.com today. Your trees will thank you.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
All right, it's Baloo. Let's get real for a minute. Losing weight isn't exactly easy, especially when your life involves being surrounded by good food at every event imaginable. Believe me, I get it. But thanks to Awaken 180, I'm already down 10 pounds, feeling sharper, more energized, and never hungry. This isn't some juice diet or starving yourself nonsense. I'm eating food that tastes great, even when I'm out on the road. Here's the beauty. Awaken 180 gives you the game plan to handle real-life situations. I've been hitting plenty of events lately, temptation everywhere, and I've managed to stay on track effortlessly. That's huge. 10 pounds down, energy way up, hunger totally controlled. So if you're tired of carrying around extra weight, tired of diets that don't work, it's time to check out Awaken 180. Take it from me, Hacker Dempsey Hayes, basically everyone. It's easy. It works and it's real. Do what we did and choose the solution for weight loss. Online at awaken180weightloss.com.
The magical basketball ride continues for Gators fans this weekend, and now you can remember all 34 Gators wins with a full-size Season to Remember basketball for only $149.95, featuring scores of every game along with embossed logos, championship history, and more on panels of the ball. Order now. Get one of only 5,000 licensed balls. Call 800-345-2868, 800-345-2868, or visit nikcosports.com.
Plumbing problem? AC acting up? Septic tank trouble? Don't waste time calling 3 different companies. Just call Duck Duck Rooter. We offer plumbing, septic, and air conditioning services. Call 904-862-6769.
Put your best foot forward and score 60 minutes of soccer insight on the Sporting Jack Soccer Hour. Join Cole Pepper, Mauricio Ruiz, and Becky Burley for Soccer Talk.
Tuesday nights at 6
on 1010 a.m.
Living on Amelia Island, having fun in Bernardino Beach? No matter what brings you to the fun, cozy town, make sure you check out the tap room at Mocama Beer Company. With a full flight of craft creations, from the Cosmico IPA to the Motor, the perfect pilsners and lagers, matching memories and some Mocama magic is what it's all about. Mocama Beer Company in Bernardino Beach, near the big water where the sun is born. And look for more Mocama craft at your local Total Wine or ABC Liquors.
Family owned and managed for 20 plus years, Hidden Hills Golf Club boasts a unique and welcoming atmosphere. Visit us at hiddenhillsgc.com to book your next round on our Arnold Palmer signature course. You'll be glad you did.
Tired of changing out bad sod year after year? Get it done right with Roundtree Sod. Big or small, they have it, and always supplied farm fresh. For a lush, legendary green lawn, call 7414 Sod for a free estimate. 7414 Sod.
David here with Royal Pest Services. Man, don't let your yard be torn up by that heavy aeration machine this spring. Visit RoyalPestServices.com to learn more about our granular aeration, broadcast throughout the tree and shrubs to break up that compacted soil. Visit RoyalPestServices.com.
Pickett here with my concierge doctor, Richard Townsend. Doc T, how does a concierge direct primary care operate?
We are a membership-based primary care made directly between a patient and physician. We'll have a limited amount of patients that allows us to give unlimited access and personal service to you. This individualized approach has been shown to lower hospitalizations as well as maintain healthier lives. We also give 24/7 access via phone to me outside of our scheduled office hours.
To learn more, go to mypvconcierge.com.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide Free and Gentle provides an excellent Tide clean, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues like dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on your skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Whole lot of business items to get to before we bid you adieu and hand it off to XL Primetime. I will begin by saying this. We were gifted a new shiny tool last week, Google Trends. I didn't know that existed, but now I can see what all of you here in Duval are searching the most over the last 48-hour period. And it looks like you're interested.
It LeBron?
No, it was not. It was the Lakers, though. That was number one, actually, Lakers Rockets. However, also among the top searched items, women's college basketball. So, yes, I will provide you with your update. If you want more in-depth thoughts, you can find my podcast at the Women's Basketball Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. New episode drops later tonight. Texas, South Carolina in the first of the Final Four games on Friday night. Of course, the men's Final Four is Saturday. And then UConn, UCLA at 9 p.m. after UConn, the lone non-1 seed. Yes, we almost had all 4 1 seeds in the women's Final Four, in addition to the men's Final Four. They look like a team possessed. Paige Beckers is on a mission. The other interesting note from the women's basketball world, and I think we can tie this a little bit to some of the other collegiate sports, Olivia Miles, who was the projected number 2 overall pick in the WNBA draft, announced last night via Shams Charania of ESPN that she will not be entering the draft. Instead, she's entering the transfer portal. Now, the WNBA is unique in this situation because they are approaching a new CBA negotiation where, as opposed to Caitlin Clark making $70,000 as a rookie like she did last year, the payday for rookies in that rookie scale is going to be exponentially larger. And so the idea of she plays one more college season, cashes in on NIL where you can make millions of dollars in addition to whatever sort of endorsements you have and that you will carry into your professional life. The idea of let me do that now and maybe even raise my draft stock because Juju Watkins, even with the torn ACL, would not be eligible for next year's WNBA draft. Is that a play? And I think it's something we've seen with the COVID year, as much as that's going to go away. Grad transfer years, which is what Olivia Miles technically is in the portal right now. She is a grad transfer. That's not going to go away. And so I do think we are approaching a world, whether it be football or basketball or whatever it is, of these student athletes who say, I don't know where I stand or how high I'll be drafted, so I will return instead and cash in on NIL dollars.
Yeah, Carson Beck did that.
Yeah. Correct.
Don't you think? Like, that to me is the most obvious example of somebody who it could have easily gone to the NFL draft and then surveyed the landscape, took his bag of cash and went down to Miami.
And look, as much as the COVID year, I keep being told it's finally going to go away after next year. I don't believe it. I think it's still going to be here forever. I think these kids are always going to be 25-year-old sophomores. And I'm like, no, that's not real. It is still a factor. Like, this is still going to happen. And especially when you couple that with, for the NFL, you can leave after 3 years. The NBA, you can leave after 1 year. Maybe you do say, I want to come back and try to raise my stock. But it's not going to work at this program that I'm currently at. I need to go elsewhere and find greener pastures.
Your girl, Haley Van Lith, didn't she go to 3 schools?
She did. She is the first men or women's college basketball player to have led 3 different programs to the Elite 8. Incredible character arc, because ultimately when it comes to Haley Van Lith, I don't want to say it's the ultimate Durant factor, but she did take the Kevin Durant deal. She went to go form the super team, and it didn't work out. And I think it also showcases the ugly side of the transfer portal. And a quick point on John Shire to come and why Duke actually maximized the transfer portal this offseason to pair with Cooper Flagg. You can't have 4 alphas in one room, and that's what LSU had. They had Angel Reese, Anissa Morrow, Haley Van Lith, and Flau'jae Johnson, who all need to have the ball in their hands. Yeah. It doesn't matter that you went out and you got the best transfer portal players. It doesn't always translate. Ohio State football, I understand you have an argument to be made. To John
Florida
Shire
wins the national championship. Not that every player's personality is an alpha, but there's a lot of guys that, between Elijah Martin, Will Richard, Walter Clayton, and then the guys certainly on the other side.
There's competitive spirit, but they weren't.
Like, they all kind of wanted the basketball.
Right, I agree. But they're all ball dominant. But I think at the same time, you got guys who weren't like the faces of their program, the faces of their conference, which was the case with those 4.
Yeah, and they were not highly recruited, which also led to the chip on the shoulder and the selflessness in which they played.
All 4 of those players outside of Anissa Morrow were top 10 recruits in their class. I bring up John Shire to say their 3 transfers that they brought in to pair with the 3 projected lottery picks, they were the only blue bloods who were recruiting those 3 guys. And it's because he went into the portal and specifically said, I need a glue guy. I need someone who's going to shoot the 3. I need someone who's going to be a threat on the offensive boards. And that's their game. And maybe those weren't the same transfer portal guys who are at the top of the rankings, but those were the guys that fit the system. And that's where I'm most curious, because the portal's not going away. It's going to be curious how coaches manage it across all sports.
Since we started with congratulations, by the way, and we're on women's basketball, congratulations to women's basketball head coach of the Florida Gators, Kelly Rae Finley. Her team lost yesterday around 7 p.m., but she had her baby around 5 a.m., a little baby boy named Lakin. And so, it's sad that her team lost in the WBIT. But I think in the grand scheme of things, the loss to Minnesota in that tournament, not nearly as important as welcoming in the baby. And the fact that she was able to coach the whole season,
good for her.
other than the very last game in the postseason.
Yeah, I will say, going back to that conversation, because in that sense, we talk about, okay, you're going back to NIL, and some of these, or going back for NIL, and some of these players are possibly making more in their NIL than they will eventually make in the NFL. But
maybe
I do
making
think
more than their coaches.
Yeah. I do also think that is a way of we use that banking on yourself too, because we've seen the situations where they go back and that next year is not really what they expected. I want to use this example, but I think because of the amount of quarterbacks that went last year in the draft, but I feel like a Quinn Ewers, for example, we've seen him just slowly drop and drop and drop. The problem is last year's stock of quarterbacks was so heavy that I don't know if we still would have seen Quinn drafted super high. But there's moments to me where I feel like he did go back and try, like, kind of bet on himself a little bit, and it didn't totally pan out the way that.
So did Carson.
And so did Carson. Yeah. And so I think when we talk about those, sometimes you are taking a gamble. Yes, you're getting money from NIL, but you're also gambling on how that season actually goes, because we know, we've just talked our whole first hour about it, circumstances surrounding these quarterbacks also affect certain things. And so it's going to be interesting to see how many of these guys and girls really want to come back and have that conversation of, like, okay, I can get some money, if they think that year they're still going to be drafted at a decent spot.
Another guy who bet on himself and it paid off was Cam Ward.
Yeah.
Cam Ward was expected to be somewhere in that 2nd to 3rd round grade range. I've heard multiple analysts say they believe he could have gone ahead of J.J. McCarthy before ahead of J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, behind Michael Penix Jr. Again, I guess that depends on your flavor, but the point is that he did come back, much like Olivia Miles. He made this bet on yourself bet that by transferring to Miami, he would raise his stock and he would become the first overall pick, which right now, according to Grinding the Mox's latest plot chart that they just released about 3 hours ago, Cam Ward, in terms of consensus, is all but guaranteed 1-1 first overall pick status. And I do want to get into a quick note about the betting market with regards to the second overall pick. But I don't know if you had
I was about to say, and even in September, though, we were talking Shador Quinn Cam.
Right.
And then how quickly that started to change once the middle season. So he's the prime example of how if you really are betting on yourself, but it worked out in the ultimate way.
Georgia fans would sit here and say, y'all, this wasn't all Carson Beck's fault.
Yeah.
It was the offensive coordinator.
Just like it's not all Trevor Lawrence's fault, too, by the way.
And I subscribe to that theory. When you watch games every single down, you understand about the ecosystem and the environment that the quarterback's in. You don't just look at the stats. And for Carson Beck, the offensive line wasn't nearly as good. Those weapons that he lost, look at Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers in the NFL, and some other guys that were expected to be his go-to receivers ended up having off-the-field issues, so they weren't able to be on the team. And so you add all of that together, and you may now have Carson Beck in the same path as Cam Ward, not on his third school, obviously, but in as far as a year from now, it could be that Miami helped Beck become the number one overall quarterback.
Cam Ward also wasn't coming off of serious surgery, though.
Also true.
And I think some people's thing is it really an elite quarterback if they have to be surrounded by all elite talent constantly to be really good? And that is the other side of things that you'll hear people argue when it comes to someone like Carson Beck.
So here's the quick note on the betting market. I haven't seen what the numbers are with our friends at Hard Rock Bet, but I do have these numbers from FanDuel and DraftKings. Travis Hunter was plus 650 to go second overall to the Cleveland Browns this morning on FanDuel. He was plus 400 on DraftKings. 3 hours later, Hunter is now plus 210. And of course, the joke is that, Billy M_91 on X, who does a great job at clipping and all sorts of stuff. People are joking. They're like, Billy sent that tweet out. And then, of course, the market shifted 400 points. But it should be noted right now, and this is on FanDuel, which is not available in Florida, but the point still stands. Abdul Carter is now minus 195 to go second overall to the Cleveland Browns. Travis Hunter, the next best odds at plus 210, and Shador Sanders plus 340.
The Shador Sanders one, like we've talked about ad nauseum, is the most fascinating because, especially where the Jaguars select, Shador could go second, he could go third, or he could go 20th. Like, legit, I don't think that there's any sort of consensus on where he's going. You can hear the likes of a Pete Prisco who's connected say he does think he'll go in the top 5. You can also find a bunch of mock drafts that actually have him sliding down of other people that are connected in the NFL. And so
feels like the Anthony Richardson conversation.
Right,
we were seeing some people were like, he's going in the top 4, and then others were like, he could slide out of the first round.
Because we knew Denny Thompson, and he's so close to Anthony. Denny banged the table that AR would go in the top 10. Right. So at some point, everyone, at least around here, even if Gator fans didn't necessarily agree with that, they were like, if Denny believes it, then we're going to believe it. I don't know anyone close to Shador.
Those people who said, well, besides Prime, those people
around here.
Right. Those people.
Let's call them.
Right. Let's call it Prime. RJ, you got his number, right? The thing is the people who did not think Anthony Richardson would go in the top 5 thought Will Levis would be the pick to the Colts at 4. That's the difference. There is no other, please don't old takes expose this down the line, folks. I don't think Jackson Dart is going to go ahead of Shador Sanders. I think I'm safe in saying that.
But there are people now that are wondering, certainly the first question is, of the Colorado players, who goes higher? Is it Shador Sanders? Is it Travis Hunter? And then, yes, there's the other conversation of, and we don't have the pro days yet. It happens later this week for Colorado, as far as getting more intel onto how it's going, what the observers think about how the ball looks coming out of his hand. Like Cam Ward's pro day went so well. If Shador's goes as well, then I think he will probably be in the top 5. If the pro day doesn't go well, then, which never happens, but then there are serious questions.
A little bit of basketball news, because Taylor didn't really get to partake in one of our favorite characters of March for all the wrong reasons. It does appear that Buzz Williams, the now former Texas A&M coach, is headed to College Park to be the next coach of Maryland after Kevin Willard's Fascinating departure for Philadelphia and the Villanova Wildcats. That is according to Jeff Ehrman of Inside Maryland Sports, who's been all over the Willard departure and everything that's gone down in that athletic department. Of course, their AD has since departed for SMU. Fascinating to see Buzz be willing to leave a place that he holds so near and dear to his heart in College Station. Also fascinating to think that those boosters down there in College Station don't have the oil money to keep Buzz comparatively to Maryland, which obviously prides itself more as a basketball school than A&M probably does. But that's still interesting to me. I wonder partially if this is just a matter of Buzz saying, hey, I need to have my next challenge. And just his nature of I need to constantly be challenged, because this is the first time we've seen a coach leave the SEC to go to the Big Ten, at least that I can think of.
I'm surprised by the move a little bit, too, because of the fact that the SEC is pouring more and more resources into basketball. So you would think that A&M is going to do the same thing and has done the same things as Auburn and Alabama and certainly Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, all those teams that are near the top. And I don't know that the Big Ten, the Big Ten, like you said, Maryland's a basketball school. There's some, Michigan's certainly a basketball school, even though they just won the national championship in football. But I don't get the vibe that the Big Ten is doing the same thing as far as putting all their chips in. But
they don't have their commissioner like tweeting out pay your basketball programs, like support your basketball programs the way that Greg Sankey is.
Yeah. It's interesting. But at the same time, we've seen coaches leave for reasons we don't know about until years later. And so... yeah, we'll follow along with the whole trajectory of Villanova, Maryland, A&M, and all that.
I just want them to schedule a non-conference game. I need to see Kevin Willard back at College Park and just watch the masses lose their minds.
Which you saw today, the Crab Five, several of them in the transfer portal. So we'll see if now Buzz Williams can try and get them to stay. All right, let's say hello to Leon Searcy.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. CoolCatsJacks.com.
The coolest cats in town.
Leon, are you ready for the draft to be here? Have you reached the saturation point of talking about the draft?
I am. I'm ready for it to be here. I mean, because it's right around the corner. And, I'm ready.
Ready? Time to stop breaking all these guys down. Where does
I've seen enough draft boards,
right,
from different people, mocks. But listen, if you're a player, because in '92 when I got drafted, it was all fun and people picking you go here, go there,
right,
what team to go, that kind of stuff. So as a player going into the draft, it's got to be an exciting time.
It is. Yeah, we were just talking about where does Shedeur Sanders go, and how much does that change what the Jaguars do at 5?
Well, listen, for Shedeur Sanders is going to go where his daddy says he's going to go.
Whether that's top 5 or not.
Exactly.
It's not like your guy Will Campbell who said, if I'm going to go top 5, I don't care where I play.
Yeah, he's saying the right thing because he's saying he's versatile. Although he's played tackle, he'll be willing to move in the guard. Which is kind of crazy to me because here's this kid that played at LSU all this time, had this amazing season. Now everybody's stickler on his arm length and all this other kind of stuff. And can he play guard? And the same thing with Mason Graham. Mason Graham, everybody's talking about his arm length, but didn't have a problem while he was playing in Michigan for the last 3 years, but now it's an issue. So that's got to be a little frustrating that they're using these parameters when it comes to evaluating players.
Yeah, Will Campbell made that comment, and he said, it wasn't a problem. Everyone's talking about my arm length, but just go watch the tape because that's what we should be little bit more focusing on, probably.
Yeah, that part, absolutely. So, the stickler on Leon Searcy when I came out was they penciled me at guard because they had said I was too small. I wasn't a prototype tackle.
You were too small?
Well, yeah, 6'3" and a
half.
Arm
length? Oh, 6'3" and a half.
But I had good arm length.
Right.
I had arm length.
It was the height.
I had the arm length of a guy that's 6'6", but I was 6'3", 6'3" and a quarter. I gave myself 6'4".
And you know what? You became a tackle.
Yeah.
I did. Well, listen, I became a tackle because I went into Bill Cowher's office because I was struggling during training camp because they moved me right in their left guard. I never played before. I played left tackle my senior year. And I told Bill Cowher, I said, Coach, I'm struggling in practice. I said, just move me back to my natural position if you want me to start. And he did.
And
good thing he listened.
He did.
That's the mark of a smart coach. All right, what's coming up? More Sweet 16?
More Sweet 16. And then I'll unveil the final playing game today.
Ooh.
It's one
the
of
bracket's going to be set tomorrow.
The bracket's going to be set tomorrow. It is 1988 Notre Dame versus 1985 Oklahoma.
Go Irish. Leon, I know you hate that.
No, well, no. Listen, I can appreciate Notre Dame because they gave me some of my fiercest battles.
Good.
Yeah, but I still hate them.
All right, what do you hate more, Florida or Notre Dame?
You mean Florida
Notre Dame.
State?
Yeah,
No,
Florida
no,
State.
Notre Dame.
No.
Yeah, they're at the top of my hierarchy of hate.
Right. But then it's Florida State.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then Florida.
Young Florida's down.
Okay.
It's Notre Dame.
okay.
It's Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, then Florida State, then Florida.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Leah.
You got it.
We love sports hate around here.
Yeah.
That'll do it for us today. For Mia O'Brien, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow. But of course, don't go anywhere. XL Primetime comes up next.